Welcome everybody. This is the last game of the C series where D series where I play Delores and in the last gameplay we able to decode everyone except one the 4th of July one. Now in the whole gameplay we see the calendar in only the post office, so today my goal is to go to the post office and visit that and see if I can find any. If I have some more films, so I just took picture of anything I can see, and then we will see if I can complete the game or I have to do it while another time. Let me unpause the game. Okay. Now I have to where's the post office? Okay, this is the post office. Okay, let me just take it. Okay. Okay. Now I think I have to submit them to the Nichols house and that's it. The game is over. I don't know. I'm so excited. Talk to Nella. I think I'm done with the assignment. Yeah, I'm done with the assignment, I think. That looks great. Okay. The prototype is now over. Did I get a raise? Did I get a promotion? Did I keep to wandering around? Did I get a raise first? या पैसा मिलेगा मेरे को? Nope. Oh. प्रमोशन तो मिलेगा ना? No. Did I get to keep wandering around? Nope. Can I quit the game? Okay. Play again. I have more photos for you to take. That was it? It quits automatically. What the? Let me just stop recording and play some another game. Download it. Okay. So I have no idea what just happened. I complete the assignment. The game is finished and it's over. It took me. Actually, it does not even 30-minute game. I can complete it if I know where the things are. But okay. Now I download another game from Steam, and this is a game called Dagon, and you can see there is a continue button, and it is because I have to I have to start it, so to see that if I have to sign it or not. So sorry for that, but let's continue the game. And I read about the game that it's not about playing. Okay, it's about sound effect and it's about everything that you wanna see. So letter D is almost, disaster, but let me see if the game is gonna survive it or not. But let me see. Okay, so I'm gonna increase the game volume and decrease my volume because it's more about how the person is saying. I'm just tapping the mouse and going from there to there and just playing around. Okay, let me just do that. Yes, so okay, after that you will not hear my voice and you will hear the game sound more often. I don't know if everything is right or not, so I am not doing it again. Okay, forget about everything. I'm here to enjoy, not to worry about anything. Let me just put it 5. Close. Everything is alright. Hello. Just play the game. Continue.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
Okay, he's as a dramatic, horror scene. I just need to click somewhere, as I know.
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
Okay, let me just pause it here and show the recording to see if you can hear it. I'll just add them, and I don't edit them, just add them. Okay, just let me. Okay, I saw the recording, and yeah, it's the sound is perfect, so I'll just add them. I'll not edit them as the gameplay is a raw gameplay. Let me just start it.
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things. For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue. On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal. All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert. That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it. By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night. But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence. I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual. Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon. That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself, but I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express. For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely. The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books. Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound. Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seemed to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it. With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. It darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith. About which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. Frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little. I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollection. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital. Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe. Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Okay, that's where the name came from. Dagon. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East of the ancient god of fertility and crops. The ruler of Agad choose him as the person saint of their war consequent. He also appeared as the judge of the dead men in Assyrian poem and the underworld prison ordered in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for the fish god due to this wrong interpretation of his name. And in Hebrew, the word dag means fish. In HP, the word Dagon is the underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, the humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the ocean. He is worshipped by secret cult called the esoteric order of Dagon. Wow, man. But that's the story.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.